What is up, my friends across the interwebs? You might notice that today I have less hair. I'm wearing a cool BMW shirt, and logically, that can only mean one thing. Today, we're gonna try to get me more headroom in the M3. Let's give it a shot. Alright guys, so this is my typical seating position in the vehicle. As you can see, my hair is just about grazing the ceiling. I have maybe a finger tips width between my head and the top of the roof here. Obviously, this is going to pose problems when I try to put a helmet on. So I brought this helmet along so we can try it out and then compare once we swap in the other seat. Yeah, I track day, bro. I track day. Alright guys, a couple things we're going to use to facilitate the headroom quest. You've seen this seat before. It is a Corbeau Forza Sport. It's the newer model. You know, the Forza has been around for a while. This is the Sport. This is an FIA approved seat, so it can be used in like semi-legit racing events. It's a tubular frame under here, so it doesn't have to be used with back braces and things like that. So this is going to be the seat. I bought a set of brackets. These are side mount brackets. These are floor brackets. This is what we're going to use to mount the seat to the actual vehicle itself. This is going to be a fixed seat, so it's not going to be on sliders or anything. It's going to be basically set it and forget it. I'm going to be the one who's capable of driving the car, or somebody else my size. Problem is with adding sliders is that every piece you put between the floor and the seat, something like a slider, has to have a mechanism where the two plates can slide back and forth. This is actually going to take away headroom, and our quest here is to get as much headroom as possible. I've said before in previous videos, I'm 6'5", or almost 6'5". It's a lot of man to fit in a small car, and when you count a lot of man and a lot of helmet, well, you saw what happened. Just for clarity, I only have one of these seats for now. I'm going to buy two. At most high-performance driving events, you know, your first, I think, I don't know how many events out, you have to be paired with an instructor. What they require typically is that the driver and passenger safety restraints are identical. So that means if you buy a seat for yourself, you have to get a seat for your passenger. If you get harnesses for yourself, you have to get harnesses for your passenger. I don't think we're going to be able to complete this entire install today because there's a snag with the seat belt that I think we're going to get into, and we'll talk about that later. But for now, I've got to go ahead and remove this stock seat from the car and then see what we got. Alright dudes, I'm gonna see if I can weigh this seat because it's one of the heaviest seats I've ever pulled out of a car. Okay. 62 pounds, and I'm supporting part of it. 62 pounds. My God. Catch it at a weird angle, but hopefully you can see the floor. This is the bracket kit that I bought. I bought it from a guy called Massive on the Vimmer forums. I think it's like Massive Brakes is technically his website. He does a lot of like metal fab for brake kits and things like that, but he also does e36 and e46 and I believe maybe e30 seat brackets. So these, as you can see, there's a couple different sets of mounting holes. Holes on the side to mount your side brackets to. Basically this piece mounts on the side of the seat. The side of the seat mounts here. You can move it forward and back depending on how close or far away from the steering wheel and pedals you want it. These mount in place of the stock brackets. So as you can see, they basically fit here. You can move it forward and backward, side to side, depending on where you like it. In the E36, these two brackets are actually sort of offset to the left. If you were just to mount this up square, put the seat in, you'd be sitting a couple inches to the left of the steering wheel and driving like this. So what's nice about these brackets is it lets you sort of, you know, push it to one side or the other if you can get it, you know, as far as you can towards the tunnel, it's going to be best to line up with the steering wheel. So what we're going to do is probably mount these in the location that we are expecting them to be in, which is probably going to be as far back as possible and as far this way as possible. Looks like in this case, I don't know if we can get them over any further, so it may just have to be this first rung. We're going to have to compare widths on the seat and stuff once we get it in here. But I think I'm not sure. This part may be really hard to do, but I'll have to play with it. I gotta figure out if I can mount these in here first or mount them on the seats first and just kind of figure out what's easiest, because there's gonna be very little clearance on this side of the tunnel once we get the seat in. Let's try it out. Alright, so I played with the mounting hardware a little bit. I think it's going to be easiest to mount this on the seat first before we're getting it in there, otherwise these bolts are too long to go through in between the seat and the transmission tunnel. What we're going to do is basically mount it in. There's 4 bolts, 2 on each of the bottom parts of the bracket to mount it to the rails we already installed. I have it mounted lowest in the back, so we're basically almost touching the floor once this is actually mounted to the bracket. In the front I have it up a few pegs to kind of give it a little bit of layback and a little bit of thigh support. Alright, so this is going to be really hard to film and probably even harder to actually do. But basically we have some bolts and nuts. They need to go through the rear hole into this, and the rear hole into the one down here, and then the other side is kind of the problem here. It's going to be almost impossible, but we're going to give it a shot. It might take me a couple minutes, so please just join me for the ride. Oh my god, that was incredibly painful. Alright, so the seat's in the car. I haven't tested the fitment yet, but I see 2 issues already. One of them I thought I was going to run into. The second one I wasn't sure about. The second one's fairly easy to fix. The first one I'm going to have to kind of do some thinking and engineering to figure out what's the best and safest way to take care of it. So, problem number 1. This is the stock seat. As you can see, the seat belt buckle is attached to it. Down here, there is a bolt or a nut and a kind of locator pin to keep it in the right direction. And obviously with this here, it's not in the car. So this is gonna have to probably come off. I'll take this off and make sure it'll fit and figure out a way to mount it inside the car. Second concern is this is the car. If you look closely right here, this is the side mount bracket mounted to the floor bracket. There's a gap right here. So the seat I've pushed all the way to the tunnel side, and if you look closely, there's a gap. So the bracket and this seat didn't line up to be a perfect width. So I guess what I'm gonna have to do is get some sort of spacer to allow this side or the other side, maybe space it out a little bit on each side to bolt up correctly. It's unforeseen, but unfortunately something that has to happen. Let's go ahead and check the fitment, because that's kind of what this video is really for, and make sure we can get some head clearance. What? Alright guys, it's getting dark out, so I'll put a light in the car. If you got weird lighting, that is why. Alright, so I definitely feel lower
Adjust my steering wheel back to where I had it. Definitely feel a little bit lower. The seat is not fully fastened. It's tightened for the most part, but you saw the gap, so there's a little bit of movement here. I definitely gained, I'm gonna say, at least 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches above the head. It's not too far back, feels pretty good. I could daily drive this position easy. Theoretically, I could probably rock it back another notch if I really wanted to. Hopefully I won't have to do that. Let's try it with the helmet on, because that is the important piece. So, it's tight, it's close, but I'm just barely skimming by. I sit up, stay in this position, I think I'll be alright. If I'm bouncing a little bit, I may hit. Might be able to pull this trim back, shave it a little bit right here, but I think it's pretty good. It feels pretty good, it feels much better than it was. Talk to you without my helmet on. I think this seat, extremely comfortable for somebody my size. I don't feel any weirdness in the back. Daily driving is going to be much better. Oh my god, having all this headroom, being able to turn my head and feel all free and sit up and adjust, that's going to be amazing. It's a tiny bit tight with the helmet on, but there's clearance, which there definitely was not before. I may try an autocross just to kind of get a feel for the car, make sure it's going to be reliable, make sure I'm going to be okay with the helmet. This isn't the helmet I'd be using at the track. This is just kind of like a cheap motorcycle helmet that I'm borrowing at the moment, but it's the lowest profile one I had. All my motorcycle style helmets have like fins and stuff on top of them, so they're a little bit unrealistic. Again, I'm 6'5". If you want to know generally what you look like, I'm a lot of torso. My legs are comfortable with this new setup. I have relatively decent shoes on, and I think this is going to be good. I think it's going to work, which is good news. The problem is it means I got to spend more money because I got to buy another one from over here. I already have the brackets for over here, but I got to buy another seat before I can get to the track. And like I said, we got to figure out that seatbelt install. So if you have any ideas, or you got a forum post, or you got to do it yourself or something, please send it my way, because any help is appreciated. For those of you that want to see how it looks in the car, look at that. Looks awesome. Gray matches the dove gray interior. Decent amount of head clearance, nothing too crazy, fits really well. It's not, close the door here. It's not rubbing the door at all. You can see I can get my hand between the door and the wing here. Looks really good. This is about as far back as the massive brackets will set it. If you look, it's right about in line with the B pillar. So if you're gonna have a cage or something like I'm potentially gonna get eventually, that's kind of how it's gonna fit. If you need better pictures or have more questions, please ask me. But that's a Corbeau Forza Sport in an e36 M3, and looks good. All right, dudes, video's over. Didn't get to finish it because there's a couple of things we got to figure out: seatbelt and spacing issues. I'm probably gonna put this seat back in, but that's okay because we can just do everything we did all over again. Eventually I have to buy another seat, get both set up. The good news is when that seat goes in, we got another cool seat to do videos in. What? So go support everybody else on YouTube. Like, subscribe here, comment, do whatever you got to do. Love having you guys around, love hearing from you guys. I have some really constructive comments. I'm glad people are enjoying it. And I think that's all I got. Bye-bye.